When witches go riding and black cats are seen, the moon laughs and whispers, 'tis near Halloween. If you like to learn, but lack enough time to locate the reason or translate the rhyme, with magical knowledge from ancient tomes on the shelf, I bring Halloween topics to Geek Thyself. Hello everyone, I'm Heather and I'll be your host for this podcast. Halloween is my favorite holiday and my favorite spooky time of the year, so park your broom at the door and listen for a spell as I brew up some Halloween topics for this week and the rest of October.
Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Geek Thyself.
Hi everybody, welcome to another spoopy episode of Geek Thyself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are now nearly done with Spoopy Month. We have one more episode after this one.
Sad.
Yeah, but next one's going to be fun, because we've already talked about what it's going to be. But we're not at there yet, so we're not going to skip ahead. Right, this week we're going to be talking about the things called Creepypastas. Okay, so what are creepypastas? Well, first off, they're not terrifying linguini from Italy. That's not what they are. I mean, there probably is creepypasta about linguini.
It makes me think of like the stringy aliens from Sesame Street.
Oh,
do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't. Sesame Street's not a thing in the UK.
Oh,
not really.
That's fair, because it's a public broadcasting network show, so that would make sense.
PBS, yeah. It's fine, but okay. So, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about creepypasta, which I know more about than Heather does, because Heather's a bit older than me and didn't really, listen to creepypasta and stuff.
No,
I don't know.
I think I'll recognize them when you're talking about them and describing them. I'll be like, oh, that thing, yeah. I'm going to recognize them because I'm technically a millennial. I'm doing air quotes for everyone who can't see me on camera. I'm technically a millennial, but I'm at the older end of the millennial generation. So when I was born and growing up, I remember there not being internet. But I was also there and remember when internet first became a thing. So
apparently...
I'm sure I'll recognize some of this stuff, but...
Yeah. Well, apparently I am right on the end of, millennial Gen Z, which I didn't know about, because all you hear about now is just millennials. You don't really hear about Gen Z yet. I'm sure you will soon. So yeah, creepypasta. Creepypasta, or creepypasta, or creepypasta. It's basically, it's a play on the term copypasta or copypaster, where, when, you probably going to remember this a lot more than I will, but chain emails.
Yeah.
When you get, those weird stories in your inbox and you had to pass them along to 7 different people or you get bad luck.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like that. Well, that's where the term comes from anyway, because essentially what...
I don't feel like there is... I was just going to say, I don't feel like they're as common anymore, those types of emails.
I think I got one on Facebook a few years ago. Facebook might be where they've moved to.
Yeah, I think they do them on social media now more so than actually on emails, because now everyone filters their emails.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I've seen them on Twitter where you have to, retweet or something, that kind of thing. It's just a lot easier. But essentially, they were called copypasta or copypaster because they wanted to have the same... sort of enunciation on creepypasta, which essentially comes from the fact that they are horror thriller stories, generally short, normally anonymous, and the whole point of them originally was that they could be unsettling enough to be real and not over the top as in so totally unbelievable. So just random small stories about things that could have potentially happened to someone, and they were spread around the internet by copy and pasting onto image boards and message boards and that kind of thing, which is where the term copypasta or copypaster, creepypasta comes from. So it was an evolution from that, because it started being from just random things that were being spread around to being creepy stories that were passed around to try and, scare people at night.
Okay. That makes sense, actually, too, as being the source of Creepypasta, because I remember those chain emails. To be clear, I never resent those because I knew it was complete stupid BS. But I do remember getting them, and the idea behind it was that you basically had to copy-paste the email and send it to multiple other people.
Mm. Yeah, so that's what the moniker comes from. Although that moniker didn't originate, it didn't come about for a little bit before they were already started to be circulated. It started on 4chan, like everything does. That's where the term was coined, and about 2006 is when they started to use the term creepypasta. It depends on how you interpreted it as you read it. I always called it creepypasta because it's the word pasta, but some people who are perhaps older than me and were more with copy paster would call it creepypasta. So it's.
I could see it going either way. I've only ever heard it referred to as creepypasta.
That has become more what people use now and that kind of thing. So essentially, that's kind of what they were. They're small stories that could have happened. Lots of smaller ones that sort of happened and that kind of thing. Apparently, in 2010, the Time magazine reported on them being at their peak because that's when the New York Times printed about them. And I'm pretty sure they had a weird name for them. I can't remember what it was called, but it wasn't creepypasta, and it was just funny. I'm going to look it up, see if I can find it.
It was probably something ridiculous knowing news outlets.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Besides the fact that creepypasta, I think, is the term that more people use now, I have a feeling that part of the reason that's the term I've heard more is that a lot of my internet friends that I don't know in real life in some capacity are younger than me. You're younger than me. A lot of people on the Nerdsmith network, a lot of our creators are either my age or younger. And so some of the internet terminology that is used by people younger than me gets used constantly, so I'm always around it. So creepypasta is just the one I've heard.
Yeah. Exact origins of the first creepypasta or story like this are obviously unknown because the whole point of them was that they were anonymous. So
right. Because then it could have happened in your area.
Absolutely,
dun, dun,
that was the whole
dun.
point. Yeah, and it's essentially folklore for the internet, the Hookman stories. I assume you've heard of the Hookman.
Yeah. Oh, anyone who's gone to camp or done any sort of sleepover or slumber party has heard the Hookman story.
Yeah. It's just kind of like those sort of things. Some of them are cautionary tales that advise against those sorts those kind of things. Oh, I can't talk today. Yeah. And that kind of thing, where others are just unsettling stories or images that circled around the internet, Smile Dog. I don't know if you've ever seen Smile Dog.
It sounds familiar. I'd probably have to see a picture to tell you 100% if I've seen it or not.
I am sending you a picture of this right now because...
But it makes me think of basically it makes me think of the stories you hear about sometimes that get posted anonymously on different places where it's I was babysitting for someone and then the kid sat up and said something creepy to me.
Yeah, or a friend of a friend that said this happened to them. There's a degree of separation, but yeah.
Okay. So I have seen this image before.
Yes. So that's kind
basically a creepy looking husky with teeth that almost look like human teeth.
Mm-hmm. And of course the image is a bit distorted and sort of that kind of thing. But that's essentially what they started as, a small, very micro fiction or images that were creepy that circled the internet. Another one that you probably have heard of, which pretty much everyone has, is Slender Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, which also started out as one of these images, basically where they photoshopped him into the background of images with children essentially just watching them. And he's a very tall, very thin man with sort of tentacle things coming from his back and no face.
Well, I think most people in the U.S. especially will have heard of Slender Man because there was a story where two teenage girls became so obsessed with the Slender Man story here in the U.S. And I'm so sad that here in the U.S., these two girls, they became so obsessed with the Slender Man story that they started basically plotting to kill one of their classmates.
Yeah.
Because they thought Slender Man was telling them to.
Yes, that happened in 2014. That was actually something I was going to cover as well, because it's something I found in research and stuff. But yeah, essentially that brought Creepypasta into the limelight in all the wrong reasons, because that's obviously not what it's about. It's about scaring people, cautionary tales and stuff like that. Obviously, it's evolved a lot more since then. Now there's art, there's longer stories, there's like continuing stories that people write. There's books on Creepypasta now. There's also now in the YouTube and Twitch sort of space, there's narrators who narrate the stories, which obviously we've talked about this before. With me me struggling to read, it's how I consumed most of my Creepypasta.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so like it's now such a big thing, like with over millions of people like invested in these stories, and even more stories circulating the internet over the past 2-3 decades, because obviously it's been around a lot longer than they like to think of the term. Essentially just coming from old urban legends and stuff and being rewritten to making new urban legends and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the modern day, like, internet generation version of the campfire stories.
Absolutely.
Like the old wives' tales and campfire stories that you would tell with your family or friends when you were trying to be spooky. Like, the stupid ghost stories where you hold the flashlight up to your face and then you're trying to scare your friends with this creepy story that might have happened in your area. Basically, Creepypasta is the internet version of that.
Absolutely. A lot of the earlier ones sort of consisted of like sort of rituals that people could do, like Bloody Mary and those kind of ones, but obviously new ones for the internet age. Personal anecdotes like we've already talked about, like, oh, this happened to a friend of a friend, that kind of thing. And then there were other ones, just like that circulated. Apparently one called Ted the Carver, which came out in about 2001, is sort of the earliest example of like the person being known who's the author of the creepypasta. I'd never actually read Ted the Carver or listened to it. I don't know what it is. So, but apparently that's one of the earliest sort of ones that you could. Not Ted the Carver, sorry, Ted the Caver. But essentially, it's about
trace it back to who wrote it.
Yeah, and apparently it was about spelunking and about spooky things that happen when you go spelunking.
See, and spelunking is already creepy because you're basically crawling deep, deep, deep into caves that are often unmapped, often unknown, and if you get stuck down there, you're kind of just hosed because if no one knows where you are in there, how are they going to find you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, basically it just takes those kind of ideas of spooky stories and then creates their own world around it. That's just it. They've been doing it for that long. Alright, so some notable stories. Obviously there's a lot of Slenderman stories. Jeff the Killer was really big at one point. A lot of sort of ones for games came about, like with Lavender Town, like if you ever played Pokemon. The creepy tones in Lavender Town song may apparently like caused 500 kids to all commit suicide and stuff. Obviously it didn't happen, but like it's meant to be like either stories that happen outside of your worldview, so you can't really check them, or they're just weird enough that they obviously wouldn't be reported. Like, so obviously 500 kids all committing suicide at once would be a fairly big news story, I think. Yeah. Or at least you'd hope that was reported on, but no, it didn't happen.
You would think so.
Yeah, and then there's things like the Rake, that kind of, which again, just more monsters that have been created from this realm of spoops.
Well, and then there was there was a recent one with like a creepy girl, Momo.
Momo? I don't think I've heard of Momo. Do you know what it's about?
Yeah, it's Momo. It was supposed to be basically this girl who is very creepy looking, kind of like The Ring
Okay.
esque, like that kind of creepy, but with a slightly distorted face. And it was supposed to be something where, like, if you texted a certain number or whatever, Momo would start texting you or messaging you on different platforms and saying creepy things. It was very strange. One of many things that I discovered while searching the internet for something completely different.
Interesting. So yeah, in the early 2000s, sorry, late 2000s to early 2010s, the website creepypasta.com was created. I think in about 2008, yeah. Which is essentially just a big suppository of all of these stories that have been circulating the internet. Some are obviously uploaded by new people, obviously like with their usernames and stuff like there because they want to use it as a way to get people to know their writing, and then there's the older ones which obviously don't have a confirmed author, like there's the Russian sleep experiment, which essentially kept people awake for over 8 days, like with this gas, which essentially made them start to eat. Oh, okay, you've just sent me that picture. Yes, I have seen that picture. It's terrifying, but yes.
Yeah, Momo is creepy.
Absolutely.
It was supposed to be some sort of internet challenge, but it was just someone.
Yeah, so basically, Creepypasta's just evolved into be more of a... People kind of get that it's not real now, but the whole point is, like, especially on the sort of subreddits, like if you ever venture into Reddit, like on No Sleep, Creepypasta, and those kind of places, one of the rules is that you can't say that this isn't real. Like, you have to go along, like in the comments, with believing that it's a real thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that would make sense, because the whole point of that is that you're there to enjoy the crazy, creepy stories.
So, like, the multiple part stories and stuff, like, that link into each other, you're essentially just following along. And some are really written well. Some, obviously, not so much, and then some bigger ones get traction. Like, one of my personal favourites is a story called Psychosis, which, obviously, I don't know what psychosis means specifically, but I think it means that you believe that, like, you're being watched, or that everything around you is changing and you're the only one who's noticing it.
Let's Google.
Yeah.
Psychosis. Psychosis distorts a person's perceptions and thoughts through hallucinations and delusions.
So, yeah, basically in this story, this person believed that everyone around them was being controlled by aliens. And so essentially just recluse themselves into their room, making notes and that kind of thing. And, like, the only interaction they had with people is after they had already put information out there, like their name, and then someone used their name, and that kind of thing. So it was a really interesting story, and the twist at the end of the story is he's absolutely right. Obviously, he never finds that out, but the twist at the end of, like, this 5-part story is that, yeah, he's totally right, and that everyone's being controlled by aliens in the back of their skulls.
It makes me think of some of those, like, Black Mirror episodes and stuff.
Oh, yeah? I've never seen Black Mirror. I should watch it, to be fair.
You would probably enjoy it. Well, okay, you would enjoy it provided you're okay with the endings being somewhat depressing and twisted. I don't personally love those kind of shows. My husband Mike does. He likes to watch them. He like Twilight Zone and all those kinds of things. So like Black Mirror and a couple of other shows he really likes. There's some very, very twisted storylines in there. I won't describe any of them because I don't want to give spoilers for anyone listening who may decide they want to go watch it. But it's a lot of Twilight Zone-esque stories where you get an ending to the story, but it's not always a happy one, and sometimes it's kind of happy, but with like a really weird twist.
Dark undertones. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. So if you like that kind of show, you should check out Black Mirror. I think it's on Netflix.
Okay, that's really interesting. I might look into that. Okay. I think we're at a good point to go into our break, and then we'll come back and talk about a couple of more well-known stories and things, and then we'll call it an episode. Yay!
Sounds good. Hi everyone, and welcome to the mid-roll.
Yay!
So this week, we're of course going to be talking about our amazing sponsors. I'm going to start off by talking about World Anvil. I can't talk about them enough. They're a fantastic, fantastic website. It's worldanvil.com. They are the most robust world building and campaign management software available out there. They even won an Annie Award for it. So you know they're legitimately amazing. And not to mention the fact that the people themselves are also amazing. Janet and Demetrius are so nice. Just the sweetest people. So definitely you should go check out worldanvil.com, and it's great for storytellers or for campaign management if you're a DM. You know, any of those things. It's great for world building. You should take a look.
Absolutely. Also, we're going to be talking about the people that we love are Die Hard Dice. Because who doesn't love the metal clicky-clacky math rocks?
Mm-hmm. Well, especially when they've got some like fun spooky themed ones.
Oh, they do? I didn't know.
The like brimstone.
Oh,
you haven't seen any of the new colors?
I've not seen the brimstone ones. What are the brimstone ones?
It's red and orange, and then like the black looking metal.
Oh no!
They're so pretty. We're actually giving those away.
Oh, are we?
During the Nine Hells event.
Oh.
So you have this week, when our episode comes out today, you'll have this week and then one more week of one-shot episodes where you could come in and win a set of those brimstone dice that are so pretty.
Okay, but back onto Die Hard Dice, which is about D&D, because they've got beautiful dice.
Yes.
Yes, and not only do they have beautiful dice, they've got beautiful dice in all colours, and like Heather says, in multiple colours too, with their Spellbinder series. And apparently they've got brimstone ones that I need to go look up, because I didn't know about these ones. They've also got amazing accessories like the Scroll of Rolling, which is just a portable roller, which you can use. Apart from that, they've got beautiful dice. They've got mainly metal, well, no, all their dice are beautiful, but they design their metal dice. Which makes them even more beautiful. And then they also, Heather's just, oh god, it's like gunmetal. It's like gunmetal black. Oh no, Heather, what have you done to me? Oh, I've got to get those. They're so pretty.
But you can use a coupon code.
Yes, you can. You can use the coupon code Geek Thyself to get 15% off your first or next order. They're great people. They have great products. They've got great prices. Everything about them is great. Go check them out. dieharddice.com.
Yes. All right. And we mentioned it already, but don't forget to check out twitch.tv/wearenerdsmith to check out any of those episodes of the 9 Hells of a Good Time event that we're hosting right now. And perhaps win a set of those beautiful Spellbinder dice.
Yes. Come on, come and join the fun. It's always fun when we play D&D, because it's not just us playing. We've got people from the community playing, don't we, as well? Yeah.
A lot of different people.
Which is always fun. It's always fun to interact with new people and stuff like that. So yeah, come and join us. And with that all said, we'll get back into the spoops with Creepypastas.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're back from the mid-roll. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the fun monsters. We've already talked a little bit about Slender Man, but just going to talk a little bit more about him. He first came about in 2009 on a post on the website Something Awful. Something Awful, which is a comedy website housing essentially multiple bits of content. Like how everything spread, like with Creepypastas being anonymous, it was just pasted onto one of these and essentially just came about through that way. Obviously, like we talked about in 2014 when people got way too into worshipping Slenderman. But we're going to talk about it a little bit beforehand. It was part of a Photoshop contest where users were challenged to create paranormal images. Like we've already said, and the image that they created was Slenderman watching children play in a park, and it was terrifying. I remember seeing that image when it was about back when I don't think I was on the internet in 2009 much because I was 13. Ooh, I was 13 at that point. Oh boy. So yeah, I hadn't really strided onto the internet. I didn't have my own laptop at the time, but when I actually started to get onto the internet more, I did see it, and it was creepy. I haven't been listening to Creepypasta for nearly that long, but yeah. The writings of H.P. Lovecraft essentially encouraged or inspired the stories that came along after the image post, because obviously the original post was just an image, and then the stories about the characters started to come up. Then there was a game made about them. There's actually been multiple games made about them, like the Slenderman, the 8 pages, where you're walking through a forest and you've tried to collect the pages without being caught by Slenderman. And then there are other games and stuff, and there's even movies now. There's even a feature movie about Slenderman. I'm not sure if it's already out, but I know that
I don't know. I hadn't heard about that.
I know there is a movie. Slenderman movie. Yes, it's right there. Yes, it's already out. It came out in 2018. Had a budget of 28 million and made 51 million at the box office. So it was a success, but essentially just a small indie film. Yeah, it's already out. I don't know where you could watch it, but it is already out. Oh, actually, the Slenderman looks really cool from this. Like, he's kind of like the face is kind of cracked a little,
that's interesting.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, Heather's just showing me more dice. Oh god, they're just as pretty. I don't know which ones I'm going to get now. Why are you doing this to me, Heather?
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm saying I don't want them, but what I'm basically saying is yes, show me more dice. So yeah. So yep, there's Slenderman the 8 pages and Slenderman the Arrival. That was the other game. So yep, essentially Slenderman has become one of the biggest sort of creations from the Creepypasta movement, which is amazing considering it all started from just one picture. But that's what the internet can do with things.
Okay.
Like I said, I've already talked about Psychosis. Jeff the Killer is also a big one. Essentially, he's just a teenager named Jeff who essentially was attacked by a group of bullies. Jeff defends himself and his brother, and essentially beats up the people that were trying to attack them, but does more damage back. And essentially, he finds out that he likes doing that to people. Very, yeah, very. What's it? Psychopathic. Essentially, yeah. So essentially, it's stories that follow him down that path until he eventually ends up killing, and then just lives in the forest and keeps doing it. It's not my personal favourite, but I understand that it's one of the bigger ones that have come about. There's also ones called Pen Pal, which essentially is somebody following around a kid for all their life. Basically in one of the first ones they release balloons, like with pictures of themselves and where they're from, and it also like includes a letter like from their school, like encouraging people to get in contact, like saying where the balloon got to.
Oh, so like sending out random balloons and being like, hey, be my pen pal.
Yeah, well, this kid never got theirs back. Fact is they did, but there was no mailing address on the envelope, and there were just pictures of the kid inside the envelope, which is why they never got their envelope back. And so eventually, like, those pictures end up to the house. Again, there's no mailing address, like, on the, like, it's just a blank envelope which their parents find, and that kind of thing.
That's creepy.
So yeah, it's essentially that kind of build up of story. I'm not going to spoil it because it gets really good. And then there's like another one that's fairly recent but has been made into 2 books because there's so much content for them. It's Tales at the Gas Station. Essentially, the story behind this one is there's a gas station in the US that sits on like the border between this world and the paranormal world. So a lot of things just happen at this place, and it's about this one cashier who has had it happen so much that it just doesn't faze them anymore. So it's like a comedic edge on the creepy, which essentially scares a lot of the customers away, but they're telling the ghost to go away. So basically he's just telling the ghost to get lost and that kind of thing. It's actually a really interesting story. I've not heard them all because, like I said, there's 2 books worth of content. And one of my sort of people that I followed put like an omnibus of the whole thing out because they were they were contacted to do like the audiobook version, and just the first book was over 6 hours. So, like that's how much content that they made for this for. There's like Ted the Caver. We already talked about Pen Pal. There's the lost episode tropes, which essentially like details lost episodes of shows and stuff. Like Candle Cove is the biggest one of that, which is essentially just a whole show that like was essentially like forced into time slots that it shouldn't be at, and it was just very creepy, very sadist. And essentially basically what it looked like is if a parent was watching their kid watch the program, they were just watching static, but they could just see everything. So yeah, very, very weird. So yeah, there's then like Dead Bart, which is an episode of Simpsons where like essentially all these sort of episodes, like from SpongeBob SquarePants, The Simpsons, all these sort of famous cartoons and stuff, they essentially have very dark, twisted endings. And then these episodes obviously don't get put out because they're not family friendly. They're not good for kids, and they essentially just make shows like for them, and that's basically how that works. I've listened to quite a few of them. If I had to like give a personal like favorite like category for them, I'm really a fan of like the ritual pastas, which is kind of like just creepypastas which involve rituals and stuff and that kind of thing.
So like the ones where you have to do X, Y, and Z or you'll be cursed kind of ones?
Well, not just like those sort of ones. Like there's one called the Devil Game, which essentially lists instructions on how to communicate with Satan himself, which is always fun, but essentially like half the creepypasta is just how to keep yourself safe while you're doing it, and all the things that you're not allowed to do. Like you can't, like essentially they appear in a mirror when you do it. You can't look away from the mirror once, because if you do, they're out. You can't go over an hour and 6 minutes and 6 seconds, or 666, like for the meeting, or they then swap you with the body, like so your soul's in the mirror, they take your body, which will then die a few hours later. But just think what Satan could do with a few hours for a body. Right. Yeah. So essentially, like it becomes like a game, and the twist at the end of that. Actually, I'm not going to reveal the twist at the end of that one because that was.
So it's kind of like a Bloody Mary situation.
Absolutely.
But not exactly.
Yeah, but like there's a lot more steps. Like it has to be in a church and that kind of thing. Yeah, and it has to be at midnight, so you have to basically break into a church to do it. There's like loads of other ones.
If anyone actually did this.
Oh yeah, like absolutely. But that's the thing. It's that they're meant to be like you could feasibly believe that someone would try it, and you feasibly could believe that someone did it, and then this happened. Right. Like that's the whole point. Is they're not meant to like be super specific.
Yeah, they're not meant to be super believable.
Yeah.
Like not perfectly believable and not super specific, because then it could be happening anywhere.
Yeah, and then there's like lots of ones where like people end up talking to angels or demons or the devil and that kind of thing. There's so many stories. Like I could go over them for forever. Because there's literally so many. Obviously you're not super familiar, but like after talking about these, is there any that you're familiar with? Like as a sort of wrap up, because obviously I've done a lot of talking.
I've definitely heard of some of these, and obviously I had heard of Momo, which was a new one for you until you saw the picture. I don't know that there's specifically one I'm aware of that you haven't already mentioned. Those are some of the more famous ones, I think, that people are more familiar with. I mean, generally speaking, a lot of it is the, you know, like you said, this such and such happened at such and such hotel, or such and such happened, and this, you know, oh God, a ghost showed up, and it's a lot like ghost stories or creepy stories, or the stories of like, you know, you're babysitting and you hear noises and you know the kid's asleep and you go and check on the kid and you end up barricading yourself in the kid's room with them because you're worried and you can't, like, the phone's line's dead or your phone is dead if you're using a cell phone, and then the next morning you wake up and there's something changed in the house. But nothing happened to you. It's just someone did something in the house.
Yeah, or one of my... I'm actually going to... I think a good way of ending this is just discussing a couple of ones, just to, you know, leave you with a taste of what you could be getting yourself into if you look these up.
Mm-hmm.
There's one called Humans Can Lick Too.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Essentially, this college age girl comes back to their dorm, hears a lot of noises in the house, and to keep themselves less stressed, they put their hand under their bed and let their dog lick their hand. And they do, until they wake up the next morning and their dog has been killed. And then there's a note by the dog that says humans can lick too.
Ew. Oh, that's awful.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
That's awful in so many different ways.
Yes, it is. There's another one, but that's like a very small... That's kind of the idea. Very small story, very quick payoff, and just creepy enough that you could believe it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my other personal favourites, really small ones, is essentially just a traveller who's going through a forest, comes up on a small cabin, really small room, like a single room cabin. It's unlocked, there's a bed. They're like, oh, okay, I'll just use it to get some rest. First off, why would you go into someone else's house? But whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they close the door, they get themselves comfortable, and like the bed's really comfortable, but it's a bit weird because like all the walls are covered in paintings, and all the paintings sort of feel like they're looking at him, and it's a bit weird. So he goes to sleep, like he eventually gets to sleep, and he wakes up, and then he realizes there are windows. All of the paintings were windows, which are now empty. Which means he had just people staring at him while he slept.
That's creepy.
That's really creepy, yeah. That's kind of the idea of creepypastas. Those are a couple of the older ones.
I think the dog one bothers me more.
Yeah.
But it's because the dog dies.
Yes. I have a feeling that could be why. Because you're a very animal lover. But that one creeps me out more just because of how unsettling it would be. And like obviously like his body...
a bunch of people staring at you.
Obviously his body recognised that it wasn't just paintings, but he just didn't realise until after he'd woken up. And then everyone was gone, and that's the terrifying bit. It's like, what, did they do anything? Like, are they just still watching the place? Yeah, and that's where the story ends. So
and not only that, but like, how did you not see all of those people outside when you went into the house?
Yeah, it's kind of terrifying. But so yeah, that's what creepypastas are. We hope that you enjoyed us talking about them. I personally love them. There's a load of great narrators on the internet if you like me and you can't really read them. Don't do what I do and listen to them to fall asleep, because that is sometimes a really bad idea. Because sometimes a lot of them don't affect me as much as they used to, but sometimes I'll get one that really gets to me and then I can't sleep. So sometimes it's just not worth it. Just don't do it. Listen to them in the daytime when it's safe.
Yes, or they might be good for like a Halloween party or something.
They're so good for that. Alright, so yeah, if you have any favourite creepypastas that we didn't mention and you want to talk to me about them, feel free. You can find us in the Discord or on Twitter at Geek_Thyself. I'd happily talk creepypasta with you all day, and we can exchange recommendations. I've given a few of mine right now, but there are still plenty others that I enjoy and go back to listen to again because they're so good. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this. Head there. I hope you're not too terrified to sleep later.
I think I'll be okay.
I've got work after this, so I'm going to be fine.
Yeah. No, and I'm definitely not going straight to bed. It's only like noon.
Okay, well, yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'll be fine. I dealt with Soxy's ending story. I can deal with the creepypasta.
Oh! You can't just do that! Oh!
Sorry, but it's true.
I mean, it is true, but ow! Oh, well, on that very sad note, we'll see you next week, guys, with the final episode of Halloween week. Halloween week, Halloween month.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Geek Thyself. Don't forget to check out all the other amazing content on the Nerdsmith Network. If you have any questions for either of us, you can get in contact with us on Twitter at geek_thyself.
You can also email us at geekthyself@nerdsmith.org. And please don't forget to go to iTunes and leave us a review, or also go anywhere you listen to your podcasts.
We'll be back next week with another informative and fun episode.
And until then, don't forget to geek thyself.